Okay, so we saw an increase in B, the unemployment benefit. So now let's think about what's going to happen in our model when we have an increase in Z, in productivity, okay, or in terms of what's going to happen when suddenly firms can produce more. Now, why is this important? Well, remember that sort of the new classical hypothesis is that business cycles are being driven by these changes in productivity, by changes in Z. So if we accept that to be true, we could use this model to look at what changes this implies for the labor market over the business cycle. Okay, so as Z goes up and we're in a boom, what do we expect to see in the labor market? And when Z goes down and we're in a bust, again, what do we expect to see in the labor market? What changes do we expect to see to unemployment, to labor force participation, things like that? So that's what we're going to investigate. So again, let's start by going over our two sort of major equations that determine equilibrium. So the first one is free entry, which is going to determine J. So when Z goes up, that's going to be a larger total surplus for the firm. Or sorry, a larger total surplus. However, one result of that is that the surplus for the firm will also be larger. Okay, or put another way, there's a larger expected profit for the firm. Right? If firms produce now, they're going to get more, and therefore their expected profits are higher. And this will mean that more firms will enter, and this will lead to an increase in J, right? So again, that's Z goes up. I expect that when I match, I will get a higher profit. And therefore my expected profits go up, therefore more firms will enter. What about the labor force participation curve? So again, we see Z here. And again, it starts because an increase in Z is going to increase total surplus. And therefore, as a worker, that means that my surplus as well will go up. Okay, or put another way, my wage is going to go up. And therefore, when I do match, I will get more. And so therefore, the advantages of being in the labor market are now higher. My expected gain from entering the labor market is higher. And that means that for any J, remember, this is always defined for any J, Q goes up. Okay, so for any J, I now am more likely to want to enter the labor force, or more workers will want to enter the labor force. And so again, we can see this graphically. So when Z goes up, we shift now right along this curve. Remember, again, this curve doesn't shift because Z is not in this equation, which defines this line. But we do go along this line. We move to the right along the curve. Okay, so J goes up. And then our VQ curve, our labor force participation curve, shifts up, or it rotates up, okay, because now again, the benefit of being in the labor market is higher for any J. And so therefore, for any J, more people will want to enter. So notice now that we have unambiguous effects. So unambiguously, J goes up, and unambiguously, Q goes up. And why is it unambiguous this time? It's because the two effects on Q are acting in the same direction. So J goes up, meaning that I'm now more likely to find a job, okay, because there are more positions being offered. And also, if I do get a job, I expect to make more. My wage will be higher, my surplus will be higher. And so that's what's going on here. So now let's look at kind of the effects on our variables of interest again. So what about the unemployment rate? Well, again, remember the unemployment rate is determined wholly by J. Okay? Because it's about what fraction of searching workers match. So in this case, J goes up, so more workers will match because there are now more available positions per searching worker. And therefore, the unemployment rate goes down. Okay? More matches since there are now more available positions per worker. What about participation? Well, we said this already. It's going to go up, and it's for two reasons. One is more workers will want to enter the labor force because the wage goes up. So in those cases where I do match, I will be paid more. And likewise, I'm just also more likely to match. I didn't put this here, but I mentioned it before, right? So both the wage goes up, but also I'm now more likely to match. And so as a result, I'm more likely to want to join the labor force. And finally, what about output? Well, for output, remember this is our equation defining output. And notice that each one of these terms are going to go up. So Z goes up, by hypothesis or by definition of the experiment. Q goes up, we saw it right here. And this expression, the number of searching workers who match, also goes up because J increases. And so unambiguously, Y increases. So this is what we expect to see given the model over the business cycle, again, assuming that the business cycle is driven by these changes in productivity. And it makes sense, right? The unemployment rate will go down. This is in a boom, the unemployment rate will go down. The participation rate goes up. In fact, this is what we see in reality. Generally, during a boom, more people participate in the labor force versus in a recession, many people will not even bother searching, will say choose to go back to school or do more things at home. And likewise, output goes up. This is almost, also by definition. In a boom, output goes up.